we got an interesting thing to talk about today for the Patreon episode. So welcome our Patreon listeners.
Hey.
This, again, our Patreon stuff is a little odd, and this one is a little odd.
Mm-hmm.
Strange.
Yeah.
Unusual.
Shall I bring it up?
In a minute. Get ready.
All right.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about a bird. Welcome down north of the upstate. This is Mari.
I'm Matthew.
And we're going to talk about... Cue the recording.
Okay, stand by, listeners. This is
I
the
I
recording.
do not want to attempt to pronounce it myself.
Eornis terravela scobiensis.
And that has how the robot
Pronounced it. Okay.
Okay, but
Another way to pronounce this wonderful creature is...
And now here it is in Latin.
Eornis terravelox.
Or, as we're going to call it through the rest of this podcast, the Woofen Poof.
Or the gobiensis.
Or the gobiensis. I like the Woofen Poof.
I like gobiensis.
Woofen Poof.
Yeah, okay, we're not going to go through this again. All right.
Well, why are we talking about this bird?
The gobiensis.
Woofen Poof. Well, because it's tied to a very famous university here in New York.
And what would that university be?
What? It's in Ithaca. That gives you a hint?
Okay.
All right.
Well, it must be Cornell.
Yes, the Cornell University.
Founded in February 19th, 1865. Mm-hmm. It has a reputation for a serious study.
Very serious study, yes.
But as of October 2018, 58 Nobel laureates, 4 Turing Award winners, and 1 Fields medalist have been affiliated with this university. Its former and its present faculty and alumni include 34 Marshall Scholars, 30 Rhodes Scholars, 29 Truman Scholars, 7 Gates Scholars, and 55 Olympic medalists.
So in other words, this place turns out brains, and brains are attracted there. I mean, Sagan, Carl Sagan taught there. We've been down there ourselves. We couldn't get to the Planet Walk because it was heavy traffic that day, and we couldn't find a place to park, which I was kind of disappointed in. But we did see some other things down there. It was really
Both
nice.
our kids were looking at
going there.
Cornell University.
Yep. It's a very prestigious.
Decided to educate locally.
But it is an Ivy League school, so there is a reason we're talking about this bird, and it has to do with Cornell. Now, Cornell houses the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. Highly recommend you visit.
Oh, it's beautiful out there.
Oh, we went there. It's an amazing place.
Don't worry about bugs. The birds have got it.
It's a member-supported lab that studies birds and other wildlife. They welcome the help of bird watchers, people with a passion about birds to help study and report on birds on their own area. They house one of the largest collections of bird songs in the world, and the lab was founded in 1915, and this lab grew from a few rooms to its current location in the 226-acre Sapsucker Woods Sanctuary. And yes, we did visit that. We actually got to do a behind-the-scenes tour. And that bird, we got to hear how they collect the bird sound. We got to see, it used to be like ages ago they would really truck out into the woods with this huge recording equipment and try to collect the sounds. And now, they have people recording with their cell phones and sending this stuff in. And we went to one of the audio labs, and the woman had it was from Australia. I can't remember the bird, but she was trying to get the sample out. It was really kind of cool. But they have the whole area is set up for bird watchers, and you think, oh, museum dedicated birds sounds kind of boring. It actually isn't. It's very intriguing. And if you get to do the behind the scenes, it's amazing. a lot of taxidermied birds and behind the scenes, of course, for study. And we are also lucky while they were there, there were some visiting professors there, and they were showing some of their specimen collections to them, which is something you normally don't get to see when you do behind the scenes. We just happen to be in the right place at the right time. And they do have this huge specimen room, which is climate controlled to protect the fragile specimens. And it's absolutely amazing. So,
and how they restore specimens.
Oh, yeah.
As well, that have been taxidermied. And some recent taxidermy, just to use that just in general to come to a better understanding of birds.
Right.
Yeah.
So, in other words, if you're a bird lover, this is the place to go. They take the study of birds very seriously here. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Very serious.
Oh,
Yes.
that's for sure.
Yep. But in 1928, an unusual bird appeared in a paper by August C. Frottenheim, SCD Cantrab, FRGS, printed by Berlig Press. This bird lived in the Gobi Desert, and it was called the Woofen Poof, or Gobiensis, by the locals, and was given the scientific name of, we're not going to try to pronounce it again,
Eornis Toravelux gobiensis.
I'm just going to keep calling it Wolf and Puff.
Okay.
Now, I'm just going to give a summary of the paper. The paper is available online, so if anybody wants to read it,
Right.
there are a few locations where it's available online. Check our sources if you would like to read it, but I'm just going to give you the quick summary. All right. History. Due to the depiction of the bird in the caves of the Donegal in France, it is assumed that humans were aware of the Woofen-Poof from Cro-Magnon times. Other references of the bird were found in ancient Egypt by 3 amulets displaying its image found in the tomb of Tutankhamun. A Roman writer, Euperdius, makes a brief reference to the Woofen-Poof that was served during a banquet. Marco Polo mentioned the bird while traveling to China. And then there is no other reference of the bird until Captain Cook, the ship's doctor, thank God Pillsbury, recorded in his diary that the crew had eaten the Hoofensoof eggs. A lot of eating of this bird. But
Really?
when we go on, I don't think there's much meat in them.
From what you can see from the photographs that you'll find online in books,
It's small.
scientific pamphlets, the likes.
It's a small bird.
That pertain to, the gobiensis. Yeah, it's a small bird, very shiny. It doesn't seem to be much to it. It's just a little larger than a chickadee.
Yeah, well, here it is, the appearance. Next part of the paper. The Woofen-Poof is approximately 17 centimeters in length. That is not big. Its long beak is pouched like a pelican. So if you were picturing a hummingbird, picture a hummingbird but with a pelican thing, okay? Its wings are extremely short and semicircular. That's really odd. And when the bird flies, an unusual musical tone is generated 3 octaves above a middle C. I have no idea what that. I'm not a musical person.
I've forgotten.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes. Studied music.
So probably,
in a while.
I'm going to guess the tone wrong, but probably like, or something like that. Okay, when it flies.
It's sort of a flat.
Yeah.
3 octaves above a middle C.
Kind of like those Harryhausen UFOs. In the 50s. The flying saucers. I don't know if Harryhausen did them, but.
It'd be more like a.
Yeah, like that. Okay.
Or, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a theremin?
Theremin,
yes. As they whiz by?
Yeah. Now
Does that come with a Doppler?
Well, maybe. Let's go on. The name might be a description of the sound made as the bird takes off, a woof noise.
Yep.
And then when it lands, it makes a poof noise. So it goes woof, poof.
Wouldn't that be a... Okay, now where does this description come to us from? How far back?
Oh, this is from a scientific paper in 1928. You see.
Okay. All right. So in 1928, aviators are just toying around with the idea of breaking the sound barrier. So thing of it is, a person back in 1928 hearing something break the sound barrier would sound like a poof or a woof.
Especially when it's a 17-centimeter size bird.
17-centimeter size bird.
Could you open the door for producer Honey? She looks a little distressed. Okay.
How much do you?
She's thinking about it. All right. Because it has small sandy brown feathers. It looks like it is smooth and glossy in appearance, very much like polished metal. And this may be due to the presence of enormous numbers of active sebaceous glands in all parts of the body. So it looks like it's made of metal, but it's actually got these really small feathers that are covered in goo. I guess you could say.
Covered in some kind of resin, which makes the bird very aerodynamically sound. When all the feathers come together and form an airfoil.
Yep. Now.
But as to how it propels itself, I wonder if it must be some kind of anti-gravity. Because there's no evidence of any sort of...
I don't know if they would have noticed that in 1928. Maybe science fiction was pretty good, but it's just really coming in the forefront. But now let's talk about its behavior.
Yeah.
Okay, very important for birds. To study their behavior. Is it a solitary? Is it a flocking bird? Things of that nature. And the Woofen Poof is a social bird. Flocks can range from 25 to 250 in number. They fly in a Sumerian arrow formation. Now, I could not find an example what a Sumerian arrow formation was.
I didn't have time to research it. I'm sorry, folks. Sumerian arrow.
But it is a fast flyer. It averages 414 kilometers per hour, or other words, 257 miles per hour.
Wow.
That is one fast bird with a top speed of 600 kilometers per hour, or for us Americans, 372 miles per hour.
Okay, that's not quite breaking the sound barrier.
No, but it's fast. So
yeah,
it
is.
If one of these things decided to dive bomb you, you'd be dead. It'd be like being struck by a bullet. A 17-inch long bullet. Woof, boom, you're dead. Woof. Now, they display a social organization. They mate with one partner exclusively for life. That happens like with swans do that. Yeah, I can see that. And they have a respect for property rights because of the attention they pay to the grouping and boundary lines of their nests. That's kind of odd, but okay.
Okay.
All right. And if the Woofen Poof becomes angry, it flies at its opponents at high speed, using its closed beak as a deadly weapon. So like I said, if you got hit by one of these, it'd be like being struck by a bullet.
Yes, well, it travels at how many miles per hour?
Up to 372 miles per hour. Yeah.
Okay, well, the speed of sound is 767 miles per hour, or 1,234 kilometers per hour for you folks who are into that sort of thing.
Could you look up quickly how fast like a musket ball comes out? Because maybe it's closer to a musket ball.
Yeah.
I don't know. While you're looking that up, I'll go into the social and moral significance of this bird. And like I said, who's heard of this bird? I mean, I didn't until I read this paper. I found it quite
approximately 120 meters per second, or 390 feet per second, is a musket ball. So,
yeah,
about the speed of a musket ball.
Yeah.
A
little slower than well, I don't know.
How do we?
I can't do maths. I can't do maths right now. So, all right.
The size of a 67 caliber musket ball fired out of a British long land.
So if you were to train these birds, you could use them weapons, basically. All right.
Yeah, that's the speed of a bullet for sure.
Okay. So the social and moral significance of these birds. Well, this is a quote from the paper. Through countless ages and successive civilizations, this remarkable bird has been the symbol of speed, stamina, grace of line, proportions of members, and beauty of motion.
I don't know. I think its platform is set a little too far forward of its feet.
Yeah, well, it's kind of an interesting. They really build up this little bird, don't they? The result of the inspiration can be observed in a variety of forms, such as the willow pattern, chinaware, in the streamlined designs of our automobiles, and in everyday expressions such as graceful as a bird.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, this is an amazing bird, but I never heard of it.
That is, the gobiensis is, is quite
so,
an interesting thing.
The writer was Forthenheim Augustus C., and he wrote it in the Burley Press in 1928. So, published scientific paper. It's an amazing bird, which I've never heard of until now. Cool, huh?
Yeah, it is. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, guess what? If you took one look at the bird, you would know what's going on. The bird, yes, looks exactly like it was described. It's metallic, kind of has a pelican beak, small, semicircular wings, and amazingly, it usually sits on the hood of a car. Yes, folks, this bird was a hoax, and the picture was a hood ornament.
How about that?
Yes, and so I bring this up because this gives a good example of, even though it could be a very serious place to study, it doesn't mean they're not without their sense of humor.
Yes, one of the reasons why the birds may have flown in a Sumerian arrow shape is because in the old cuneiform, it means life.
Oh, okay.
When it's when it's used ideographically, the written sign developed from the drawing of an arrow, since the words meaning arrow and life were pronounced similarly in Sumerian language.
Well, like I said, this was a hoax. It originally started with a presentation done by a graduate student named Cuthbert Fraser.
Oh my.
And then it was expanded on by Lester Sharp, a professor of botany at Cornell University. It was written as a joke, but some people do think this bird exists.
Well, according to the fossil record, the gobiensis has been with us for over 280 million years, since the Mesozoic period.
And it eats...
Sorry, Mesozoic era.
Yeah.
The Mesozoic era is comprised of a few periods.
I didn't mention it, but I forgot to mention that it eats ginkgo... Oh, what is that herb? Ginkgo biloba? People use it in herbal teas and that. I'm having a rough time. I drank the tea. I didn't care for it. But you find it at health food stores. I can't. Oh, horrible! I can't find it right now. But it eats that fruit, and it's it lives in China, and according to this hoax. But anyway, to continue on with, like I said, some people were fooled. Now, one of the people that was fooled by it was Anthony Ludovicsky. He wrote in 1933, he was writing for the Eugenics Review. Now, we discussed eugenics a bit way back in season 1 with Letchworth Village. So he's writing for a scientific paper that supports eugenics.
Oh, boy.
And he cited examples of incest in this breeding in nature to support the purification of human stock. And one of the examples he gave was the Woofen Poof. He didn't realize it was a hoax.
That's hilarious. It's easy to make that mistake because, presumably the gobiensis has been around since the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods. So, if they can survive through that, they can stand up to a little scrutiny.
Nowadays, too, this is interesting because some people fell for it. Some people did. A hook, line, and sinker. I mean, when I first read about this, I took one look at the picture and went, that's a hood ornament.
It's obviously a hood ornament.
I didn't even have to read the paper. But as I'm reading the paper, in on the joke, because I looked it up as from hoaxes from New York. And I'm not a very scientific person. I mean, when I was in middle school, I floated with the idea of becoming a botanist or a biologist. So, I mean, I do have a little more respect for scientists than, a lot of lay people do. But even reading that dry paper, I could tell, boy, this was all pulled out of somebody's, And I love the names. The Burley Press.
Burley.
I can't help but think of Terry Pratchett when I read that, because one of the top crossbows that's sold is this crossbow sold by, Burley and Strong in the Arm. That's the name. Burley and Strong in the Arm. Terry Pratchett and him wrote Discworld, about a flat world, which kind of leads into a point I'm going to be making in a second. But the best engineers on this world are the dwarves, and Burley and Strong in the Arm are these dwarven manufacturers of crossbows. But then you find out one of them, I forgot if it's Burley or Strong in the Arm, is a human who kind of bought his way into dwarven society, which happens. Carrot, the 6-foot-tall redhead captain of the watch, becomes a captain of the watch, is a dwarf. He was adopted by dwarves. He knows their religion. He knows their society. He knows their languages. He knows their mythologies. He is a dwarf in their eyes. But he's a 6-foot-tall, redheaded human,
Oh, by the way, yes, heir to the throne.
Maybe. Yeah. We don't discuss it. But that's kind of, that's when every time I see the Burley, I'm just thinking it was a Burley and Strong in the Arm crossbow, which is supposed to be like the Smith & Wesson, Anyway, kind of a sidetrack, but kind of not, because you got a lot of people who believe in flat Earth now.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but
it's...
I want to circle back to Pratchett.
Oh, actually, I was going to make a point about the flat Earth real quick.
Oh, okay.
But when it first came out on the internet, some of these flat Earth societies were doing it all tongue-in-cheek. They were doing it as a joke.
Right.
But then some people didn't catch it. And now you've got a lot of people who are trying to prove that the world is flat.
That's funny.
And I'm sorry, but, unless this suddenly turns into Discworld and sitting on top of the 4 elephants on top of the giant turtle, Actuan, I'll take the spherical world, okay, right now. But go back to Pratchett. Okay, what did you want to say about Pratchett?
Is that he had an animal like the Gobiensis in one of his stories, that little dragon.
Oh, Earl?
Earl.
Yes, Earl. Right. Yeah, in one of the first Watch books, you are introduced to, there's different types of dragons, but the main, you get the mean, nasty dragons, which they live in this kind of weird, negative space. I don't know, it's hard to describe where they're from. But if your belief in them becomes strong enough and you use the right magic, you can actually cause them to appear. And that's kind of the plot of the first Watch book. And in there, but they have swamp dragons. Now, these poor little swamp dragons explode a lot.
Oh, no.
They're full of noxious gases. The males will try to they'll make themselves as big as possible, and oftentimes, when they're, showing off to each other, they'll blow up. So, and they're always sick, because it's a lot of gastric juices and that. Well, there's this one, you meet Lady Sybil.
Sounds like a terrible existence.
Yeah, well, Lady Sybil raises them because they make good pets. Even though they may explode and destroy your furniture, they still make good pets because they're very tame and most of them are very sweet. And this one's named Earl, and he's kind of a runt. Mm-hmm. He doesn't seem right, but everybody kind of takes him on as kind of this mascot of the Watch, the Watch is slowly building up because now Carrot's in there. It's an interesting book. You must read it. It's a great book. It's called Guards. But when Earl sees the big dragon, something happens to Earl. Mm-hmm. And they think he's dying. He's like shivering and groaning, and there's noises, and they're not sure what's going on. And Lady Sybil, who has raised these things as pets, has no idea what's going on. And turns out swamp dragons can rewire their insides. Earl becomes the first jet propelled, I can't say it.
Jet propelled?
Jet propelled dragon.
Ving!
Because,
There we are.
Yes.
There you have it.
So I think
the Ornis Terravelux gobiensis may be a form of dragon.
Oh, that's an interesting twist on this. Yes, maybe we could expand on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it is a dragon.
It was metallic.
Yeah. And you hypothesize now it flies by jet propulsion.
Yeah. So that's how it flies so quickly. Yeah. But it's not jet propulsion because you don't see any sort of conventional hardware on it that would suggest that it propels itself like that. So it's got to be anti-gravity.
But it's got the circular wings, which must just work as...
That's where the anti-grav comes in.
Well, I'm thinking they just work as, what do you call them? When the flaps that go up and down.
Stabilizers.
The stabilizers, yes. That's probably what they are. But that would probably also explain the woof and the poof. So it's woof, yeah, poof. That's more like it. Woof.
Because it's 3 octaves above a mid-C.
And I'm not a musical person. I can't tell you what that sounds like. But
yeah, I don't have my tuning horn with me.
Yeah. So there you have it,
whistle.
folks. There's an example of a hoax that was started at a very prestigious university. And some people didn't really catch the joke.
Yeah,
and that happens.
Sure.
Well, look what's going on right now. Well, this is probably this will come out on Patreon before this event happens. If you're hearing it and you're not on Patreon, the event has occurred. Mm-hmm. But the Storm Area 51. There's another good example. Started as a joke. A lot of people are in on the joke. A lot of people are just making memes.
There is federal land up there on the hill. Mm-hmm. Next to the park in Watertown, right there on the park in Watertown, next to the vortex.
Oh, I'm talking about the Area 51 in New Mexico. They're going to be storming.
It was Watertown's Area 51. Right. That's what I'm speaking of.
Well, we will be talking.
What I'm saying is that nearby there is federal land, and it's all fenced off, and there's slabs everywhere.
Yeah. But the event, the Storm Area 51, the guy put it up as a joke.
The thing of it is, it looks active.
People ran with it, are running with it. But that little town, Rachel, Nevada, they're booked out. They've got the police are actually ready to declare a state of emergency because they don't know how many people are actually going to show up. A lot of people say they're going, but like Facebook events, you could have 100 people say they're coming and only 10 show up.
Yeah.
But this is now in the millions of people say they're showing, so even if 10% of them show up, that's still like 100,000 people or more who are going to swarm this little town. I don't think they're actually going to storm Area 51. There might be 1 or 2 who will attempt it because they just don't realize it's a joke.
I hope it doesn't become a protracted event.
It sounds more like they've got beer sponsors going there now. They've got, it sounds like it's going to become a big party.
It sounds
which
like
is great.
A tourist.
Yeah, which is great. I think if that's what happens, Rachel, Nevada should run with it and make it an annual event, really.
Yeah, sure.
But that's another example of he set it out as a joke. A lot of people were in on the joke, but there's that small percentage that think it's real. And no matter what you tell them it's a joke, they're not going to believe you because they want it to be real.
They want it to be.
But as you're talking about the Thompson Park vortex, that's one of our subjects coming up.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and Watertown's Area 51 for people who are wondering. Yeah, so
well, that's for people who believed in the gobiensis and that it was real.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what happens. When they want to believe Area 51 is the place to go to find aliens.
Like Anthony Ludovinsky, who was so sure of his eugenics
absolutely
theory, he decided to use this hoax as proof that eugenics was working.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, God, the guy was proponing incest.
Oh boy, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. That's repugnant.
I mean, you just gotta look what happened to some of the rulers in Egypt. No, that ain't right. Anyway.
And all these deformities. Oh no, that just means they're part alien. Yeah.
I wonder how many other things people propose, who did it tongue-in-cheek and like wrote up a scientific paper or videotaped something and released it out to their friends as isn't this a funny joke, suddenly find themselves scrutinized by people who won't accept the joke. Oh, there's another good recent example. The Dobie sighting. You've seen
yes, the Dobie sighting.
The Dobie sighting. Dobie, whatever. And if you see the original post, you can hear the person who's recording it kind of giggle, just quietly. And it states, this is one of her children, goofing off.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else took the post and tried to do a paranormal spin on it. So, okay, for those of you who need a reminder what it is, this is image of a driveway, video of a driveway, and this long-legged, long-armed creature, I'm using air quotes, comes out and kind of does this weird little dance as it goes down the driveway. Anybody who has kids immediately recognized it. That's a little kid with underwear on his head doing this dance in the driveway. Anyone who's had little kids knows that's what it was immediately. And that's why it was originally recorded, because that's exactly what was going on. And the person thought it was hilarious. Post it. Somebody else takes the post, puts a paranormal spin on it, and all of a sudden everybody's going, oh my God, it's a gremlin. Oh my God, it's this weird creature. No, it's a kid with underwear on his head doing a little dance in the driveway. So it still happens. I mean, you get some of my favorite Bigfoot channels are actually debunker channels. And they're not debunking Bigfoot footage and sounds and that because they don't think Bigfoot is real. They're debunking the ones that are such obvious fakes. Yeah. It actually hurts if we ever come up with the real stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
These hoaxes are going to hurt it.
A real evidence.
Yeah. And so some of my favorite ones are debunkers like that, where they will take these footage and they will rip it apart pretty heavily. And there's one guy, he's not really a debunker so much as he takes really good cases. I mean, the cases you can't say were just hoaxes. Mm-hmm. And he breaks it down scientifically because of his background working with large apes. Oh. And his stuff is just amazing. And he will often point out this is plausible if you go by the hypothesis that Bigfoot is a large primate. And some of the stories he will kind of even mention that this might be improbable, So he even is very critical of the stories that he will break down. Mm. And I find his stuff very intriguing because it's not just, it's a giant Pithecus. No, he doesn't fall for that theory at all. He goes, if this is a primate, it's probably a primate we haven't discovered yet. Yeah. Basically. Which is the hypothesis I follow.
As long as it's not baboons. Baboons are a-holes.
I would love it to be an orangutan. But no, the body shape's totally wrong for an orangutan.
Yeah. I don't know if we've ever discovered any real, shocking evidence lately. Mm-hmm. It's always been the same old stuff.
Right, and that's, I think, part of the problem with the research of it, too, is because it's always the same old stuff, it's so easy to fake it. Yeah. You get people out there, faking the footprints, and you get people out there, and they're getting better. They're getting better at faking those footprints. They're putting, dermal ridges on their cast, and, it's just, you get people who misidentify other sounds. Mm-hmm. There was one quite recently I saw where they were claiming it was a Bigfoot howling. And if you've lived anywhere with coyotes, you'd go, no, that's a coyote.
That's immediately...
It's a coyote,
Immediately recognizable as some kind of local wildlife.
Yeah. I mean, there was an example I gave in our pre-seasons, the ones we were kind of warming up to doing this,
Yeah.
which that guy recorded the sounds, and he had no idea what they were.
Oh, my.
And we grew up in the country. We heard odd things in the woods, and I couldn't identify it.
Really terrifying.
I thought it was a coyote at first too, but then the way it changed tone and everything, wasn't too sure. Some large deer, like elk, mule deer, and that, they have some strange noises too. And I've since listened to them, and that wasn't one of them either. But I would never expect a deer to make the noises that they make. I mean, we're used to the whitetail, and the most we hear of them is that snort.
Snorting.
Yeah, that's the most we hear. But you hear some of the mule deer, and they go like, I can't even do it. It's weird noise.
Yeah, high pitched.
Yeah. So it's so there's but like a big. So the Bigfoot debunkers I actually like, because they really once they clear away all the fakes, there's that small percentage that's real, which is the opposite of the bird we were talking about, which was created as a hoax. And then you have people believe it.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why they believe it, because it's such obvious a hoax. I'm not a scientist, but I could frickin' tell you that was a hoax. Written as a joke.
It's a frickin' hood ornament.
It's a hood ornament. It just gets me.
It'd be interesting. From what vehicle was it a hood ornament?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. I'm
Okay,
sure I came across my research, but I can't remember
for you
it.
listeners out there to research, maybe find out what vehicle the gobiensis came off of, as a hood ornament.
But it looks like a little pelican with short, stubby wings, very metallic. I'm sure we're going to have a picture of it up on our webpage if we can find a public domain one to throw up on there. But so that was a hoax that came out of the prestigious Cornell University. Wow, this little discussion of this little fake bird ended up being one of our longest discussions. Okay, well, I think we better cut this one off.
We better bring this one to an end.
So thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to our Ghastly podcast.
Especially if you're listening on Patreon. And like I said, if you're not, this is an example of kind of the oddball stuff we talk about on Patreon.
So, thank you to our patrons.
Yes. And
absolutely.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Unearthly Upstate. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, and on our webpage. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Podcasts, and CastBox. Please like, share, and review on your favorite platform. Unearthly Upstate is an Animator Liar production. The show is produced by Mari and Matt Manette, with purring provided by Honey and Lloyd. Research and writing by Mari Manette. Music is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Unless otherwise stated in the episode, the places mentioned in the broadcast are not paid, or contact us for any type of promotion. Please check out our webpage for credit and sources for the episode. Thank you.